The great hall of the Zephyrian Council buzzed with nervous energy. Ambassador Cathara of the Velthari stood at the center podium, her blue skin pale with worry. The other council members sat in their floating chairs, waiting to hear what had made her call this emergency meeting. Council members, Cathara began, her voice shaking slightly. We have a problem. Our deep space sensors have picked up something in the outer rim territories, something that should not exist. The room fell. Silent. Admiral Vextar of the Crystalline Hegemony leaned forward in his chair. What kind of something? Cathara touched a control on her wrist. A holographic display appeared above the podium, showing energy readings and star charts. These energy signatures match patterns from the old archives, the forbidden ones. Dr. Vilken, the galaxy's most respected scientist, laughed from his seat. Ambassador, surely you're not suggesting what I think you're suggesting. I am, Cathara replied firmly. The signatures match human technology. The room erupted in noise. Some council members laughed, others argued, and a few looked genuinely worried. Dr. Vulcan stood up, his 8 arms waving dismissively. This is ridiculous, he declared. Humans are myths. Stories we tell children to make them behave. Be good, or the humans will come and take you away. Everyone knows this. President Kolanara of the Trade Federation nodded in agreement. Dr. Velkin is right. I've studied the old records myself. Humans are fictional beings created by ancient storytellers. They never existed. But Cathara was not giving up. The energy patterns are too specific, too detailed to be random. Something created these signatures, and according to our computers, only human technology could make them. Even if humans were real, Admiral Vextar said with a snort, which they're not. The stories say they disappeared thousands of years ago. Gone. Extinct. Dead. Dr. Velkin walked to the center of the room, enjoying the attention. Let me explain something to you all. I have spent my entire life studying ancient civilizations. I have found evidence of hundreds of extinct species, but humans? Not one. Piece of real proof. No bones, no artifacts, no ruins. Nothing. He gestured dramatically at the holographic display. What we have here is probably a malfunction in our sensors. Maybe interference from a solar storm. Or perhaps the Void Runners are testing new technology and trying to scare us. The other council members murmured in agreement. It made sense. The Void Runners were always causing trouble, and their technology was strange enough to create unusual energy patterns. I vote we ignore this, declared Senator Vexner of the Mining Guild. We have real problems to deal with. The trade disputes with the Crystalline Hegemony are getting worse every day. We should focus on that instead of chasing ghost stories. Meanwhile, far away in the darkness of space, the human colony ship Gunzi Defiance drifted silently through the void. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars through the main view screen. His crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the ship's systems and scanning for any signs of alien activity. Captain, called Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez from her station. We're picking up transmissions from the Nexus Prime system. It sounds like they're talking about us. Morrison walked over to her console. Amy was young but skilled, and she had learned to speak several alien languages during their long journey through space. What are they saying? Amy's fingers danced over her controls, translating the alien words. They're arguing about whether humans are real or not. Most of them think we're just stories. Morrison smiled grimly. Stories, are we? Well, that might actually work in our favor. The bridge doors opened, and Admiral Lisa Carter entered. She was the commanding officer of the entire human fleet, and everyone on the bridge stood up to salute her. Carter was a tough woman in her 50s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. At ease, she said, walking over to Morrison. Jake, I heard about the alien transmissions. Are they taking the bait? It seems so, Admiral. They think we're myths, fairy tales. Carter nodded thoughtfully. Good. Let them think that for now. How long until we're ready for the next phase? Chief Engineer Tony Blake looked up from his station. The new systems are almost online, Admiral. Give us another 6 hours, and we'll be ready for anything. Carter turned to look at the view screen, where distant stars twinkled in the blackness. You know, it's funny. We've been hiding out here for so long, watching them, learning about them. They have no idea what's coming. Do you think they'll accept us peacefully? Asked Amy. Some will, Carter replied. Others won't. That's why. We need to be ready for both possibilities. Back on Nexus Prime, the council meeting was winding down. Most of the members had decided that the energy signatures were nothing to worry about. Dr. Velkin had convinced them that humans were just ancient stories, and the readings were probably equipment failures. But Ambassador Cathara was not satisfied. After the meeting ended, she returned to her private office and called up the old archives on her computer. She had been studying these records for years. Ever since she first heard the human stories as a child, the tales were always the same. Humans were described as bipedal creatures with incredible strength and intelligence. They were said to be master warriors and brilliant scientists. Most importantly, they were described as extremely dangerous when threatened. Computer, she said to her AI assistant, show me all references to human technology in the archives. The screen filled with data. Energy weapon designs, starship blueprints, and tactical manuals. All of it was supposedly fictional, created by storytellers to make their tales more exciting. But as Cathara looked at the information, she noticed something strange. The technology described in the stories was incredibly advanced, more sophisticated than anything the current galactic civilizations had developed. Why would ancient storytellers create such detailed technical specifications for imaginary beings? She opened a secure communication channel to her intelligence contacts in the Outer Rim. I need you to investigate those energy signatures more closely, and I want you to be very careful. If I'm right about this, we might be dealing with something far more dangerous than we imagined. As she closed the channel, Cathara felt a chill run down her spine. The stories always said that humans were unpredictable, that they appeared when you least expected them. And according to the legends, when humans finally revealed themselves, it usually meant that big changes were coming to the galaxy. She just hoped that when those changes came, her people would be ready for them. 3 days after the council meeting, the first real sign of trouble came from the Kepler Nebula. A Velthari mining convoy of 12 ships had been working in the asteroid fields there, pulling valuable metals from the space rocks. Then, without warning, they stopped answering radio calls. Captain Zorith of the Velthari patrol ship Starwind received the distress alert while on routine patrol. He immediately changed course for the nebula, bringing 2 other patrol ships with him. The journey took 8 hours through hyperspace. When they arrived at the mining site, Zorith could not believe what he saw. All 12 mining ships were still there, floating in perfect formation around the largest asteroid. Their engines were running, their lights were on, but nobody was answering the radio. This is Captain Zorith to Mining Convoy 77 Alpha. He called over the communication system. Please respond immediately. Silence. Send a boarding party to the lead ship, Zorith ordered his crew. I want to know what happened to those miners. The boarding party found something that made no sense. The mining ships were completely empty. Not just empty of people, but empty of everything. Food, personal belongings, even the ship's logbooks were gone. It was as if the crews had simply vanished into thin air. But that wasn't the strangest part. On the hull of each ship, someone had carved strange symbols into the metal. The symbols were precise and deep, cut with some kind of advanced tool. None of the Velthari had ever seen writing like it before. "Sir," reported the boarding party leader, "you need to see this. These symbols ... they're not random. They form patterns like some kind of language." Zorith had the symbols photographed and sent to the Velthari Science Division. Within hours, he received a call from Dr. Zareth, the galaxy's leading expert on ancient languages. "Captain," Dr. Zareth said, his voice excited and worried at the same time, "I've seen these symbols before. They're in the Forbidden's archives, in the sections about mythical species." "What do they say?" Zorith asked. "They say we are here. We are watching. We remember." The news reached Ambassador Cathara within hours. She immediately called another emergency council meeting, but this time the other members were not so quick to dismiss her concerns. 12 ships, she said, standing. Before the assembled council, 12 crews, gone without a trace. And the only clue is writing in a language that supposedly doesn't exist. Dr. Velkin was still skeptical, but he looked less confident than before. It could be some kind of elaborate hoax. Maybe the Void Runners are trying to scare us. With what purpose? Asked President Culinara. And how would they know about the ancient writing systems? Meanwhile, aboard the Annes Defiance, Captain Morrison was receiving updates from Admiral Carter. The human fleet had been watching the alien response to their little demonstration, and Carter was pleased with the results. "They're starting to take U.S. seriously," Carter told him over the secure communication channel. "But they're still not sure what they're dealing with." Morrison nodded. The mining convoy operation went perfectly. No casualties, no violence. Just a clear message that we're here and we're capable. Admiral Carter was a strategic thinker. She had spent decades studying galactic politics and military tactics, while the human fleet remained hidden in the outer reaches of space. She knew that the key to successful first contact was to control the pace and tone of the interaction. "The next phase is more direct," she continued. "I want you to take the Defiance and make contact with one of their patrol fleets. Let them see us, but don't let them think we're weak." On the battleship Unsovereign, Captain Ryan Phillips was overseeing the final preparations for the next phase of the plan. His ship was equipped with the latest human technology, including weapons and defensive systems that were far more advanced than anything the galactic civilizations had developed. Dr. Helen Scott, the fleet's chief scientist, had been working for months to perfect their new systems. She was particularly proud of the stealth technology that allowed human ships to appear and disappear at will. "The cloaking systems are working perfectly," she reported to Captain Phillips. "We can decloak right in front of them, and they won't see us coming until it's too late." Phillips smiled. "Good. The Admiral wants to make an impression, and I think we can do that." Back in the Kepler Nebula, the investigation was continuing. More Velthari ships had arrived, along with representatives from other galactic civilizations. Everyone wanted to know what had happened to the missing miners, but as they searched the area, they found more strange things. Several asteroids had been carved with the same mysterious symbols. Some of the larger space rocks had been moved into different positions, forming patterns that could only be seen from above. "It's like someone is trying to send us a message," said Dr. Zareth, who had arrived to study the symbols in person. "But the message is complex, layered. There are multiple meanings." "What kind of meanings?" asked Captain Zorith. "The primary message is still, we are here. We are watching. We remember. But there are secondary meanings about strength, patience, and ... warning." The word warning sent a chill through everyone present. Whatever had taken the miners was not just capable of making people disappear, but it was also trying to communicate something important. On the third day of the investigation, they got their answer. Lieutenant Commander Steve Walsh, captain of The UNSYS Pathfinder received his orders from Admiral Carter. It was time to make direct contact. The Pathfinder was a smaller ship than the Sovereign, but it was still more advanced than anything the aliens had seen. Walsh positioned his ship just outside the nebula and activated the cloaking device. The alien investigation fleet was busy studying the carved symbols when their sensors suddenly detected something impossible. A large energy signature had appeared out of nowhere, right in front of their formation. "Contact," shouted the sensor operator on Captain Zorith's ship. "Unknown vessel directly ahead." On the view screen, the alien crews watched in amazement as a sleek, dark ship seemed to materialize from empty space. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, with smooth curves and strange markings along its hull. "This is impossible," whispered Dr. Zareth. "Ships cannot just appear like that." Captain Zorith tried to stay calm, but his hands were shaking as he opened a communication channel. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Zorith of the Velthari Patrol Fleet. Please identify yourself." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, a voice came through the speakers. It was speaking in perfect Velthari, but with an accent that none of them had ever heard before. "This is Lieutenant Commander Steve Walsh of the UNSYS Pathfinder," the voice said. "I represent the human species. We need to talk." The reaction was immediate and panicked. Half the alien ships tried to run, while the other half powered up their weapons. But Walsh was ready for this. "I strongly advise you not to attempt to. Flee or attack," he said calmly. "We are not here to harm you, but we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary." Captain Zorith looked at his tactical display and felt his heart sink. The human ship was small, but it was generating more power than his entire fleet combined. And if this was just one ship, how many more were out there? "What do you want?" he asked. "We want to talk to your leaders," Walsh replied. "We want to discuss the future of this galaxy, and we want to do it peacefully." The news traveled fast. Within hours, every major civilization in the galaxy knew that humans were real, that they had advanced technology, and that they wanted to negotiate. The age of myths and legends was over. The age of humanity had begun, but not everyone was happy about this development. In the war rooms of the crystalline hegemony, military leaders were already making plans. If humans were real, and if they were as dangerous as the stories claimed, then maybe it was time to deal with them before they became a bigger problem. The galaxy was about to change forever. The emergency session of the Galactic Security Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from every major civilization had gathered on Nexus Prime, and the tension in the Great Chamber was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Admiral Vextar of the Crystalline Hegemony stood at his podium, his 4 arms gesturing angrily. "The situation is clear," he declared. "These humans have been hiding in our galaxy, watching us, studying us. They know our weaknesses, our ship movements, our trade routes. This is a security threat of the highest order." President Kolinara of the Trade Federation shook her head. "Admiral, we don't know their intentions yet. Maybe they just want to establish diplomatic relations." "Diplomatic relations?" Vextar's voice rose. "They kidnapped an entire mining convoy. They've been spying on us for who knows how long. This is an act of war." Dr. Velkin, who had been strangely quiet since the news broke, finally spoke up. "I was wrong," he said simply. "I studied the evidence from the Kepler Nebula. The technology, the language, the tactical capabilities, it all matches the ancient records. Humans are real, and they're exactly as dangerous as the stories claimed." The chamber fell silent. If Dr. Velkin, the galaxy's most respected scientist, was admitting he was wrong, then the situation was far worse than anyone had imagined. Ambassador Kethara stood up slowly. "I've been in contact with my intelligence sources in the Outer Rim. They've detected at least 15 human ships in our space. 15 that we know of. There could be many more. 15 ships against our combined fleets? Senator Vexner laughed. Even if they have superior technology, they're vastly outnumbered. We have thousands of warships. The ancient records say that humans don't think like us, Cathara replied. They don't fight fair. They use tactics that seem impossible. And they never give up. The debate continued for hours, but it was interrupted by an incoming transmission. The main screen at the front of the chamber lit up, showing a woman in a dark blue uniform standing on what appeared to be a starship bridge. "Greetings," the woman said. "I am Admiral Lisa Carter of the human fleet. I am speaking to you from..." Beyond's retribution, the chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives shouted questions. Others demanded to know how she had accessed their secure communications, and a few simply stared in shock at seeing a real human for the first time. "Admiral." Carter waited patiently for the noise to die down. Behind her, the council could see other humans working at control stations. They looked remarkably similar to the descriptions in the ancient stories, but somehow more real, more intimidating. "I am here to deliver a formal message," Carter continued. "Humanity officially requests recognition as a sovereign species and a seat at the galactic table. We want to establish peaceful relations with all civilizations." Admiral Vextar stood up. "You kidnapped our people. You invaded our space. You call this peaceful?" Carter's expression didn't change. The Velthari miners were relocated to a safe location and will be returned unharmed once these negotiations are complete. We needed to get your attention, and clearly we succeeded. What gives you the right to make demands? President Kolanara asked. "The same right that any species has," Carter replied. "The right to exist, to be recognized, and to participate in galactic affairs. We've been watching you for a long time, and we've decided it's time to make ourselves known." General Paul Martin, standing beside Carter, stepped forward. "We're not asking for charity. We're offering partnership. Human technology, human knowledge, human capabilities. All available for peaceful cooperation. Double quotes. Dr. Velking leaned forward. "What kind of technology?" Carter smiled slightly. "Dr. Helen Scott, our chief scientist, has developed innovations in energy generation, faster-than-light travel, and defensive systems that are centuries ahead of current galactic standards. We're willing to share some of these advances with species that prove they can be trusted. And if we refuse?" Admiral Vextar asked. Carter's smile disappeared. "Then you refuse. We won't force anyone to deal with us. But we will defend ourselves if attacked, and we will protect our interests in this galaxy." "You're outnumbered 1,000 to 1, Vextar said. "Numbers aren't everything," Carter replied. "I'm giving you 72 hours to make a decision. After that, we'll assume you're not interested in peaceful relations." The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Finally, Admiral Vextar stood up and slammed his fist on his podium. "This is exactly what I was afraid of," he said. "They're arrogant, they're threatening, and they think they can intimidate us. Well, they're wrong." President Kolanara tried to calm him down. "Admiral, maybe we should consider their offer. If their technology is really as advanced as they claim..." "I don't care about their technology," Vextar interrupted. "I care about galactic security. These humans have been hiding in our space, building up their forces, preparing for this moment. They're not here to make friends. They're here to take over." Within hours of the transmission, Admiral Vextar had convinced the crystalline hegemony to mobilize their 9th Battle Fleet. It was the largest single military force in the galaxy, consisting of over 50 capital ships and hundreds of smaller vessels. Admiral Vexner, commander of the 9th Fleet, was confident in his forces. "Humans may be clever," he told his officers. But they can't fight an entire battle fleet. We'll show them what happens when someone threatens galactic peace. The fleet moved out toward the frontier worlds, where intelligence reports suggested the humans were hiding. It would take them 2 days to reach the area, but Vexner wasn't worried. He had overwhelming firepower and the element of surprise. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison was aboard the Un's Vengeance, preparing for what everyone knew was coming. The ship was one of humanity's most advanced warships, equipped with technology that would have seemed like magic to the aliens. Lieutenant Chris Taylor, the ship's tactical officer, was reviewing the enemy fleet composition. 53 capital ships, sir, plus escorts. They're bringing everything they have. Morrison nodded. Any word from the Admiral? She's sticking to the plan. We wait for them to make the first move. Then we show them what human military doctrine really looks like. The Vengeance was not alone. Hidden throughout the frontier world system were 14 other human warships, each one more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen. They were outnumbered, but they had advantages that the aliens couldn't imagine. Captain Ryan Phillips, commanding the Unsovereign, was particularly confident. His ship was equipped with the newest weapon systems, designed by Dr. Scott's team. The weapons used principles of physics that other species hadn't even discovered yet. Sir, reported his sensor operator, the alien fleet is 12 hours out. They're coming in fast, and they don't look friendly. Philip smiled. Good. It's about time we showed the galaxy what humans are really capable of. As the crystalline hegemony fleet approached, Admiral Vexner felt confident in his victory. The humans had made a mistake by revealing themselves. Now they would pay the price for their arrogance. But in the depths of space, hidden by technology, the aliens couldn't detect the human fleet was ready. They had been preparing for this moment for decades. They had studied alien tactics, analyzed alien weaknesses, and developed weapons specifically designed to counter alien technology. Battle that was about to begin would change the galaxy forever. And when it was over, nobody would ever again think that humans were just stories. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching the alien fleet approach on his tactical display. His crew was calm and professional, ready for whatever came next. Sir, reported his communications officer, Admiral Carter is sending a message to the alien fleet. The message was simple. This is your last chance to withdraw. We don't want to fight you, but we will if we have to. Admiral Vexnor's response was equally simple. Surrender now or be destroyed. Morrison looked at his crew and smiled. Well, gentlemen, I guess that settles it. All hands prepare for battle. The galaxy was about to learn that some legends are true. The Battle of Frontier's Edge began at exactly 1430 Galactic Standard Time. Admiral Vexner of the Crystalline Hegemony Fleet had arranged his ships in a classic attack formation, with his heavy cruisers in the center and destroyers spread out on the flanks. All ships, advance and engage. Vexner commanded from the bridge of his flagship, the Starbreaker. Remember, we outnumber them 50-1. This should be quick. But as his fleet moved forward, something impossible happened. The empty space in front of them suddenly filled with human warships. Not just a few ships, but 15 massive vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. Where did they come from? Shouted Vexner's tactical officer. Sir, our sensors show. They were there the whole time, replied the sensor operator. But our equipment couldn't detect them. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Un's Vengeance, watching the alien fleet approach. The humans had been hidden by their advanced stealth technology, but now it was time to fight. All ships, this is Morrison, he said into his communicator. Remember the plan. Hit them hard and fast. Show them what human space combat looks like. The first exchange of fire was devastating. The hegemony ships fired their plasma cannons and missile batteries, filling space with deadly energy. But the human ships moved like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Commander Katie Johnson, leading the destroyer squadron from the UN's Lightning, executed a maneuver that should have been impossible. Her ship twisted and spun through space, dodging enemy fire while returning accurate shots from her own weapons. How are they moving like that? Admiral Vexner demanded. His science officer was studying the readings. Sir, their engines are generating gravitational fields that allow them to change direction instantly. It's technology we don't understand. The human ships weren't just fast and agile. Their weapons were far more powerful than anything the hegemony had faced. When the UN's Sovereign, commanded by Captain Ryan Phillips, fired its main guns, the energy beams cut through enemy ships like they were made of paper. "Target the big one," Phillips ordered, pointing at Admiral Vexner's flagship. "Let's show them what happens when you threaten humanity." The Sovereign's weapons locked onto the Starbreaker and fired. A massive energy beam struck the alien ship's shields, which flared bright blue and then simply disappeared. The beam continued through the ship's armor as if it wasn't there, leaving a hole big enough to fly a shuttle through. "Impossible," Vexner shouted. "Our shields are the strongest in the galaxy." But the humans had studied hegemony technology for decades. They knew exactly how to counter it. Dr. Helen Scott's weapons were designed specifically to penetrate crystalline. Hegemony's shields and armor, the battle turned into a one-sided slaughter. The human ships moved through the alien formation like sharks through a school of fish. Every shot they fired found its target, while the alien weapons seemed to have no effect on the human shields. Captain Morrison watched the tactical display. With satisfaction, "Target their engines," he ordered. "I want them disabled, not destroyed. We're making a point here, not committing genocide." The Vengeance's weapons fired with surgical precision, crippling alien ships without killing their crews. This was human military doctrine at its finest. Overwhelming force applied with careful control. Commander Johnson's destroyer squadron was performing brilliantly. Her ships danced between the larger alien vessels, their weapons picking off escort ships with deadly accuracy. The aliens had never seen anything like it. "Sir," reported Johnson's tactical officer, "the enemy is trying to retreat." "Let them," Johnson replied. "But make sure they remember this lesson." The turning point came when the UN's Thunderstrike, commanded by Captain Ben Parker, engaged the hegemony's second-largest ship. The Thunderstrike was humanity's newest dreadnought, equipped with weapons that pushed the boundaries of known physics. When Parker gave the order to fire, space itself seemed to burn. The energy discharge was so powerful that it created a temporary rift in space-time, pulling nearby asteroids into a spinning vortex of destruction. "My God," whispered Admiral Vexner, watching from his damaged bridge. "What kind of weapons are those?" The answer came from Colonel Sam Hughes, who was leading a boarding party against the hegemony flagship. Hughes and his team had used human teleportation technology to beam directly onto the enemy ship. The aliens had never faced humans in close combat before. They were completely unprepared for the combination of human strength, speed, and tactical intelligence. Hughes and his team moved through the ship like a force of nature, overwhelming the alien defenders with ease. "This is Colonel Hughes to Admiral Vexner," Hughes said over the ship's communication system. "Surrender now, or we'll take your ship by force." Vexner looked around his bridge. Half his crew was injured. His ship was crippled, and there were humans running through his corridors. The battle was over. "All ships cease fire," he said quietly. "We surrender." The news of the surrender spread through both fleets instantly. The crystalline hegemony, the most powerful military force in the galaxy, had been defeated by 15 human ships in less than 2 hours. Captain Morrison opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. "This is Captain Morrison of the UNS. Vengeance, we accept your surrender. Prepare to be boarded for medical assistance and prisoner exchange. But Morrison's voice was broadcast much further than just the local area. Admiral Carter had made sure that the entire galaxy would hear. What happened next? To all civilizations listening to this transmission, Morrison continued, "This is humanity's first message to the galaxy. We are not conquerors. We are not invaders. We are people who want to live in peace. But we will defend ourselves against anyone who threatens us." The battle was over, but the aftermath was just beginning. As human medical teams boarded the damaged, alien ships to help treat the wounded, the galaxy was trying to process what had just happened. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Security Council was in emergency session. The impossible had happened. A small human fleet had destroyed the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "How?" President Colinara asked. "How is this possible?" Dr. Velcon was studying the battle recordings. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their tactics are unlike anything we've seen. And their ships, they're not just machines. They're works of art, designed by people who understand war better than we do." Ambassador Cathara stood up. "The question now is what we do next. The humans have proven they can defeat us militarily, but they're still offering peaceful relations. After what they just did?" Admiral Vextar was furious. "They destroyed our fleet." "They disabled our fleet," Cathara corrected. "The casualties were minimal. They could have killed everyone, but they chose not to. That tells us something about their intentions." As the debate continued, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The news of humanity's victory was spreading fast, and the reactions were mixed. Some species were terrified, others were impressed, and a few were already reaching out to establish diplomatic contact. The Void Runners, who had been quiet during the crisis, suddenly announced that they wanted to meet with human representatives. The Trade Federation began calculating the economic benefits of access to human technology. Even the isolationist Zephyrians were reconsidering their position. On the UNS Retribution, Admiral Carter was meeting with her senior staff. The battle had gone exactly as planned, but she knew this was just the beginning. "The easy part is over," she told them. "Now we have to prove that we can be trusted partners, not just feared enemies." General Paul Martin nodded. "The galaxy is watching us now. Every move we make will be analyzed and judged." "Good," Carter replied. "Let them watch, let them learn, and let them decide if they want to work with us or against us." Intelligence. Chief Diana Wells brought up the tactical display. "Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from over 30 different species." "Everyone wants to talk to us now," Carter smiled. "Of course they do. Fear is a powerful motivator, but so is opportunity. We're offering them both." As the human fleet began its journey back to their hidden bases, the galaxy was already changing. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human integration was about to begin. But first, there would be negotiations, treaties, and careful diplomacy. The battle had shown that humans could fight. Now they had to prove they could also build a better future for everyone. The war was over before it had really begun. Now the real work of peace could start. 6 months after the Battle of Frontier's Edge, the galaxy was a very different place. The Great Council Chamber on Nexus Prime had been expanded to include a new section for the human delegation. Admiral Lisa Carter sat at the head of the human table, flanked by General Paul Martin and Intelligence Chief Diana. Wells thought the change in atmosphere was remarkable. Where once the aliens had dismissed humans as myths, now they hung on every word Carter spoke. The woman who had once been just another voice on a transmission screen was now the most powerful person in the galaxy. The trade agreement with the Velthari is working well, Carter reported to the assembled council. Our gravitational mining technology has increased their mineral extraction by 300%. In return, they're providing us with rare metals we need for our ship construction. President Colinara of the Trade Federation nodded enthusiastically. Since the humans had arrived, trade throughout the galaxy had increased dramatically. Human technology was revolutionizing everything from transportation to communication to manufacturing. Admiral Carter, Colinara said, "My people are very interested in your faster-than-light communication systems. Would humanity consider sharing this technology?" Carter smiled. "We're always willing to discuss technology sharing with our allies. Dr. Helen Scott can arrange a meeting with your scientists next week." Dr. Scott had become something of a celebrity among the galaxy's scientific community. Her innovations were decades ahead of anything they had imagined possible. Universities across the galaxy were begging for human exchange, students and research partnerships, but not everyone was happy with the new order. Admiral Vextar of the Crystalline Hegemony sat in the corner of the chamber, his 4 arms crossed. In frustration, his people had lost the most face when they were defeated by the humans, and he was still bitter about it. "All this talk of trade and cooperation," Vextar grumbled. "But we still don't know what the humans really want. They could be planning to take over the entire galaxy." Ambassador Cathara, who had become humanity's strongest supporter, shook her head. "Admiral, they've had 6 months to conquer us, if that was their goal. Instead, they've helped rebuild the ships they damaged in the battle. They've shared medical technology that has saved thousands of lives. They've opened trade routes that benefit everyone." It was true. The humans had spent enormous resources helping repair the damage from the battle. Human medical teams had worked alongside alien doctors to treat the wounded. Human engineers had helped design better safety systems for alien ships, that Captain Jake. Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, was overseeing the construction of humanity's first permanent base in galactic space. The facility was being built in the Frontier World System, and it would serve as both a military headquarters and diplomatic center. "Sir," reported Commander Katie Johnson, who had been promoted after her brilliant performance in the battle, "the Zephyrian delegation has arrived for the technology conference." Morrison smiled. The Zephyrians had been among the most isolated species in the galaxy, but even they couldn't resist the opportunity to learn from human science. "Send them to conference room A. Dr. Scott is waiting for them." The technology. Conferences had become a regular feature of human-alien relations. Every month, representatives from different species would come to learn about human innovations. The humans were careful to share only certain technologies, keeping their most advanced military systems secret, but what they did share was revolutionary. Captain Ryan Phillips, now commanding the new human starbase, was working with alien engineers to develop hybrid technologies that combined human innovation with alien expertise. The results were amazing new ships and systems that were better than either species could have created alone. The joint research project with the Trade Federation is ahead of schedule, Phillips reported to Admiral Carter during their weekly briefing. "Our new hybrid engines are 30% more efficient than our previous designs." Carter was pleased. This was exactly what she had hoped for when humanity revealed itself to the galaxy. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not domination, but mutual benefit. But perhaps the most significant change was happening at the Human Galactic Naval Academy, which Commander Johnson now directed. For the first time in galactic history, alien officers were learning human military tactics and strategy. "The Velthari students are excellent," Johnson reported. "They have a natural understanding of three-dimensional combat. The Zephyrians are better at long-range planning, and the Trade Federation officers are brilliant at logistics." The Academy was teaching more than just military tactics. It was creating a new generation of leaders who understood both human and alien ways of thinking. These officers would go on to command mixed crews and develop New strategies that combined the best of all species. Colonel Sam Hughes, who had led the boarding action during the battle, was now working with alien security forces to develop new peacekeeping techniques. His methods were being adopted throughout the galaxy, making space travel safer for everyone. Crime rates in the trade corridors are down 60%, Hughes reported. The new patrol strategies are working perfectly. As the months passed, the galaxy began to realize that the humans were not just another species trying to carve out their piece of space. They were something entirely different, a force for positive change that made everyone stronger. Dr. Velken, who had once insisted that humans were myths, was now humanity's biggest advocate in the scientific community. I was wrong about everything, he admitted during a public lecture. Humans aren't just real. They're exactly what this galaxy needed. They've challenged us to be better, to think differently, to reach higher. The economic changes were just as dramatic as the technological ones. The Trade Federation reported that galactic commerce had grown by 400% since humanity's arrival. New trade routes were opening, new markets were developing, and prosperity was spreading to species that had never had much before. But Admiral Carter knew that the real test of humanity's integration was yet to come. As she stood in her office aboard the UNS Retribution, looking out at the bustling traffic around the human starbase, she thought about the future. "Sir," said Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez, entering the office with a data pad, "we're receiving reports from deep space exploration teams. They've found evidence of other species in the outer regions. Species we've never contacted before." Carter took the data pad and studied the information. Unknown energy signatures, strange artifacts, and sensor readings that suggested advanced civilizations hiding in the galaxy's most remote regions. "Just like we were hiding," Carter murmured. "How many other species are out there, watching and waiting?" This was humanity's next challenge, to find these hidden civilizations and bring them into the galactic community. If humans had taught the galaxy anything, it was that the most dangerous myths might be the most important truths. "Rodriguez," Carter said, "send a message to Admiral Morrison. Tell him to prepare the exploration fleets. We have work to do." As the message went out, Carter reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, humans were considered stories told to frighten children. Now they were the galaxy's leaders in technology, diplomacy, and exploration. The Un's Defiance, humanity's first contact ship, was being refitted for a new mission. Captain Tony Blake would take it to the outer regions to search for hidden civilizations. Its mission: to prove that if humans could integrate into galactic society, so could anyone. The galaxy had learned an important lesson from humanity's arrival. The universe was vast and full of surprises. The most incredible stories might be true. The most impossible things might be possible. And the most feared legends might become the greatest allies. As Admiral Carter watched ships from dozens of different species dock at the human starbase, she smiled. The galaxy would never be the same. It was bigger now, more diverse, more exciting. And it was just the beginning. In the depths of space, other species were watching and learning from humanity's example. Someday, they too would step out of the shadows and reveal themselves to the galaxy. And when they did, they would find a universe that was ready to welcome them, thanks to the humans who had shown that even the most dangerous myths could become the most valuable friends. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And the galaxy was infinite, with possibilities.